We live in a van full time, and somehow we just survived one of the worst natural disasters in the history of West North Carolina. If you're not already aware, Hurricane Helene had devastating repercussions along West Florida and all the way up into East Tennessee and West North Carolina. We slept in our van during it, and somehow we avoided this type of flooding. This was only a couple yards away from where we slept. Asheville is without power. People don't have water. There are a lot of towns completely stuck up in the mountains without any way for them to get out. There are helicopters trying to find people. It is incredibly heartbreaking. The line starts over there and goes all the way back to the generator and then all the way around the building. As far as I know, they still don't have water. They don't have ice. It's gonna be days before we have power. There's still no cell phone reception. It's really bad. Yeah, it's just like crazy. We can use the Wi-Fi a little bit here, and just seeing stuff that's already happened and like messages that are coming out from like the police chief at Black Mountain. It's really bad.
There's bodies, like
they have to leave people.
Leave people in the flood. It's just so bad.
Yeah. For the first 2 days, we were pretty much trapped in one location. Luckily, there was a Publix open that had a generator. We were able to charge our EcoFlow, use Wi-Fi here and there, and they let a certain amount of people in at a time. However, it started to get increasingly busy, and they ran out of pretty much everything. Line was 30 minutes. The manager of Publix is from Florida, and he said this whole city was not prepared for what happened. We're gonna have no power for a week. There's no water, there's no ice. They're only letting a certain amount of people in at a time, so we really can't dilly-dally. Andrew has really bad ADHD, so I'm trying to keep him focused. This is really bad. And rice. Pro tip, if you ever run out of ice, use frozen vegetables or really any type of frozen food and use that as an ice pack in the cooler, and it will get you by for another day probably. It was almost kind of relaxing to be able to make food for us. We found a restaurant that was obviously closed down, and we used their little dining area outside, and we just set up shop. I was able to play music and I danced a little bit, and it really just kind of eased my mind because there was absolutely nothing we could do at that point. I was just thankful that we had each other, we had the van, and we were able to have something to eat. It was just a nice, simple comfort meal. I did birds in a nest, eggs in a hole, whatever you want to call them. And of course, I had to use Tony Chachere's. I also found these little pre-made kielbasa things that were pretty good. Because we didn't have cell service and very minimal Wi-Fi, we were closed off from any type of news. Now that I'm able to see the damage that really happened around me, I'm completely astounded that we're okay. I'm thankful that we're okay. Most of Andrew's coworkers have been accounted for, and they're okay. Keep in mind, St. Pete also got hit pretty hard, so all of our friends back home are in a similar situation. Currently, there's only one way out of Asheville, which is I-26 East. A lot of people are headed to Charlotte, and unfortunately, entire towns are stuck in the mountains. Chimney Rock was completely leveled out. Black Mountain is completely devastated right now. I'm reading Reddit and Facebook. People are trapped up in the mountains. Their families can't get a hold of them. They need medications. Search and rescue and first responders are working around the clock to try and find people. We were able to evacuate. We're currently in a hotel, waiting to figure out what our next move is going to be. Stay safe.